starting with Evil Queen. She's got that big old crown. She's got that big old, like, dress, right? I don't know what it is. But that back piece, we're going to draw it, all right? So we start with a circle. We're going to leave space on top of that circle and on the bottom, all right? So find the middle of your paper. I recommend locking your wrist, locking your elbow. Use that whole rotation of your shoulder. This allows you to get in a nice smooth circle compared to going in there with just your fingers, all right? You ready to start?
Yeah.
Let's do it. So like I said earlier, I want you to find the center of your paper. Now, I don't want us to go right in the middle, but a little bit above. Nice, light, and loose. Classic circle is how we're starting out here. Now, we don't need to get too fancy with this circle, y'all. We're not committing to any of these lines, but notice, I put down many, many markings here. I'm not going in with a heavy hand. I'm not, making this anything special. That's just a circle. Now, specifically for this character, though, since it's a human character, we need to put in those eyes, nose, know where everything goes, right? So we need guidelines. My guidelines start right through the middle. I want to go down the center from the top, through that middle here, and out the bottom. Now, this is where, since we are drawing more features, I'm going to extend my center guide all the way down towards the bottom of that page. And we're even going to bring it all the way towards that tippity top. When you do this, we're extending up and down. It's going to help us build up features, and we also need what's called a horizontal guide. So I'm going to go and do 2 of these. On my top, I'm only barely going in maybe 20 to 30% of my circle, just going right towards that tippity top, and I'm going to make a nice horizontal guide right in there. Now I'm also going to go downwards about 60%, 70% actually, on my circle, left to right, bringing down another guide. Now both of these I'm keeping pretty nice and light, right? Nothing too harsh, but we need to figure out how to build downwards her jaw. We're going to go ahead, find the width of this bottom part of your circle. Find that width with your fingers. Now go right underneath your jaw there. And I want you to go barely underneath where your thumbs land. So find that width at the bottom. Go underneath your circle. And barely go underneath. Make a little dot for yourself, right on that guideline. Now that little dot is where you're aiming for your jaw. You don't have to land it there, but that's where you want to aim for, okay? So very nice and lightly. Watch as I go on the outer left part of my circle. Underneath it, I'm stretching down a diagonal line, and I'm going to go ahead and mirror that same diagonal line over here on my right. This is where light and loose is very, very important, okay? Because you can always lock in new lines. We can't get rid of them. So from there, she has a pretty squared off jaw. I'm going to start bringing downwards from my outer 2 diagonal lines right towards my center guideline, this pretty squared jaw. And notice how I'm bringing mine down barely underneath my point there. That's fabulous. Now, something about these characters, actually, Walt Disney and all of his animators and Roy and everyone in the studio made these characters from the Snow White movie more realistic. Now, what does that mean? When we look at Disney princesses or villains kind of right now, they have a very cartoon look to them. Where Snow White and the Evil Queen have very realistic proportions. Their neck is correct. Their jaws are more accurate. They actually have human-looking faces, not like big old bug eyes, right? Just staring right at you. But when we have a jaw like this, we're going to go right underneath it, build up the neck with some parentheses. Watch as I barely go inwards from the point of my jaw, and I'm swooping out, very gentle, a nice parenthesis outwards. Now, we want to keep your pencils pretty light still. I'll let you know when locking down is happening. And also talk about it more clearly. When you do this, we're going to go ahead and just try to mirror that same arch over here on your left side. And just like that, we're going to go ahead and start allowing ourselves to build up a silhouette of the crown, okay? I'm going to go right on my center guideline, and I'm going to swoop and really emphasize this guide, because this is going to be a good anchor point for us. I'm going to go right on top of my circle, where this flat line is meeting the top of my circle. And I'm going to extend outwards and up to my left, following up a tall diagonal line. I'm going to do that same arch, that same diagonal, but the other way on my right. Now, we're going to keep our pencils lightly, as this is another guide for you. Go inwards to your guideline and bring up a tall diagonal, and meet towards that middle point here. Now, I'm noticing my center guide is reaching to the left a little bit, so I'm going to go ahead and alter that. Just like that, I fixed it. Now, when you go ahead and do this, we're actually setting ourselves up to figure out the arch of each point. Now, our first point obviously is in the center, but that one's a circle. So right it towards that top middle. I'm gonna lightly sketch in just a circle here. Now we're not locking down yet, keep that nice and light. But I'm also gonna make 2 more points. Watch on my left, right in the middle of this ground plane, I'm gonna put a point for me there. In the middle on this plane, I'm gonna do another point as well. We're gonna use that as the 2 other anchoring in points for our crown. So going from the bottom of my circle, I'm gonna clean up my lines, keep yours darker. Keep yours lighter. I'm gonna darken mine up just so you can see clearly where I'm going with this. I'm gonna go ahead from my center right there. Underneath my circle, I'm gonna bring downwards 2 diagonal lines, creating a small upwards arrow underneath that circle. With this upwards arrow, we're gonna start in the center and build outwards. 2 more points on each side. Now up to my left, watch as I create another sharp one, going from my dot, right back into that middle one. And as I build them up, I really prefer going left then right, left then right. It really helps you as an artist try to keep some symmetry. Now on my left side, watch as I bring downwards my point word in towards my circle. Now right on this outer left point there, on the outer left side of the crown, that's when you just go backwards, right on in, creating your other V. Now this is just nice and light, we're not locking down yet, so if you're feeling a little overwhelmed, don't worry guys, we're gonna go on in and clean this up. But I also want to go ahead and finish our silhouette of our outfit as well. Underneath her silhouette, right in the center, is where we start for her dress. Now I'm gonna make a little dot for myself right on the guideline once again. And this is where we're gonna build upwards, her tall dress. But to find how wide it is, find with your fingers how wide your head is. Now go outwards to the left and make a little mark for yourself. Find that width and go outwards to the right, make a little mark for yourself. That's how wide her dress is going to be, which is crazy, right? But watch as we swoop through our face, nice and lightly, a very tall, stretched out rainbow. Now I'm going to emphasize only on the parts that we would see coming outwards and back from behind her head, how wide this rainbow is, and try to match it to where your points are. When you do this pretty nice and light, you are allowing yourself to stretch now a nice big U from each corner down to our dot in the middle. Watch as I swoop through a nice tall half U on the left to my center point there, and I'm going to go ahead and do that same big curve over to the right. Now one of the reasons why she has such a big part of her dress right here is simply because of vanity. One of the biggest things that we know about the Evil Queen is that she always wants to know, is she like the hot stuff, right? Am I the fairest of them all? Tell me, Magic Meter. But Walt Disney got this inspiration actually from peacocks. And that's why her color tones are like orange, or not orange, green and blue. And that's why we also get to see that upwards to bring attraction to her face. Now for her dress, there's a small little circle that lives right in the center underneath her point there. So you can sketch in that small circle. Now everything's been really light and that is fabulous. Watch as I go ahead and bring up a small fold that lives in the foreground of her neck here on the left. And I'm going to aim for that same little fold over there on the right. But I want to talk about locking in because it's been really kind of light. I want to start locking in down here as I go around her silhouette. I'm going to go above my circle right on the bottom of her dress and watch as I go with a little bit of a heavier hand. I'm going to allow my line to become nice and bold. When you go back and forth with that pressure, it's going to really emphasize your favorite parts. And y'all, if you did not like any parts of your rough and sketchy line work, don't worry, make some new lines, y'all. No one's really going to know. That's the beauty of rough sketching. Because those rough, sketchy lines end up really fading away. And we're going to leave shading to the very end, okay? So don't worry, we also shaded some really cool parts of our character. Now this movie, you saw a little bit of that clip. We have a new one coming out, but I'm really only going to be talking about the old school one, okay? It came out in 1937, beautiful film, and first ever full-length feature hand animated film ever, y'all. That's kind of insane. And this movie is kind of silly too. It was really the beginning of a whole bounds of what animation can be or what studios can do with this medium. And everybody thought that Walt Disney was going to fail. And you might be like, what? That's crazy. Yeah, he literally would make, Yeah, he went bankrupt for this movie. He had to mortgage his house, which is kind of crazy. But he put everything into it. He believed that this could be a story for the books, right? He actually, got inspiration from the Grimm fairy tale from Germany. It's based off of Brother Grimm. And really, he kind of put his own heart and soul into it, though. When he was pitching this story, he actually first pitched it to his animators and artists at the studio and wanted to see if they'd even be up for the idea. And apparently he voiced and walked around the studio and kind of played the role of all the characters while talking about his ideas. And everyone thought he was, so good at it. There's written that it made the artist cry at the end, that they were like, this would be a beautiful film. So they started getting to work, but soon they realized they needed a lot of money to create this specific film. So when they were going through it, Walt ended up mortgaging his house again for this movie, because there's been lots of times where the studios created something, they're like, oh, the studio's gonna be bankrupt. Which is kind of silly, but yeah, that's the beauty of 2D animation. It's to push the boundaries of storytelling, not necessarily to make profit. Originally, though, that's the whole basis of what Disney wanted. But if we look at Snow White's success, it actually is, if you put it in today's inflation, it would be the highest grossing animated film with $2 billion made. So even though, it was a different time, if we look to see how successful this movie was, it really broke the records. I went in and added a little flair into my circle here by creating one more and just shading this in. But I want to talk about this crown and our silhouette of our face. So I kept my face pretty nice and light, but let's go to the crown first. You know that guideline that we drew through the top of her forehead? We're going to emphasize that line, allowing this to really speak as the bottom part of your crown. When you lock in your outer lines of this crown and you go right back on down to your circle where that head is, you want to cut inwards, showing off that it is sitting on our character and not just kind of floating in outer space. Go around your crown now and start locking in all those original lines, okay? Now, for this character, Miss Evil Queen, she was voiced by Lucille Laverne. Now, speaking of this character and this voice actress, one of the reasons why she was able to be so successful at creating the quote-unquote old witch, that voice, was because Laverne actually had dentures, like false teeth. So when she voice acted for the old witch, she took out her teeth, her false teeth, and she was really able to kind of have a cool grumbly sound, Voice actor mode, if you have false teeth, maybe you could slay at that, that'd be great. But it's really cool to see that. Now, specifically Evil Queen, we got some great colors and story with this specific movie. Now, tricolor animation was really, really new, or I should say Technicolor animation. In 1935, we saw that colored cartoons were able to be really made with the Mickey Mouse shorts. That's where it started in 1935. So for this movie, they put their whole heart and soul into making this film have color. And that was a big recipe for itself. These animators made, or I should say painters, which were actually mostly women, painted each cell animation. And they made a key notebook because they ended up using real makeup to color and contrast all the foundation for the characters and all the rosy cheeks and that pretty blush and the red lips. All of that had to have a code because they used pigments and they'd scale it out, measure it out, and cut it up and paint effortlessly each cell. So it took a lot of time. Imagine doing this 50 times for 3 seconds film. All right, guys, are you ready to start doing face? Let's do it. So we have our outline pretty nice and light. I'm keeping mine light. I'm going to emphasize my head more just so you can see it a little bit better up there. But kind of like Mickey Mouse, Miss Evil Queen has what's called a character mask that wraps around their face. So right in my center guideline, going from my crown, watch as I reach inwards with a curvy V, just like Mickey has. This is kind of a classic thing, and classic animation really allows a character's face to be framed. So going in with that curvy V, on my left side, watch as we start bringing our curvy V all the way to the outer edge of our face there. You don't want it to touch, but you want it to sit pretty close. I'm extending all the way down to that first guideline we drew right down here. Bring down your curve of your parenthesis all the way down to that guideline. Now do the same thing over here on the right. When we're doing this, we're showing this part wrap around her cheeks, where her cheeks and collarbones are, or not collarbones, womp womp, cheekbones, haha, where they're sitting. And right as they rest on her cheekbones, we're going to go inwards and down. So I want to show you my left first, how we start bringing it down and in. Watch as I go right back on through, straight down to the bottom of her jaw. You're just extending now a line downwards on her face. So this character mask really emphasizes the important parts, highlighting her features. I'm going to go through and kind of clean this up and lock these in, leaving some clean lines for us to go ahead and start putting in the features. Now, when we animate features or illustrate features, one of the best parts to start is a nose. Specifically for Evil Queen, though, I know we don't own them, but Evil Queen kind of gives a Voldemort nose. Now, I mean that with love in my heart. Her nose is so itsy bitsy teeny weeny. So we're going to go ahead right in our center guideline. Underneath this guide in our base of our circle, you want to think of a candy cane arch. So tiny, so little. Watch as I bring down the smallest little candy cane arch right there in the top. And I'm going to go ahead and do another little candy cane arch right over here. Now, that's all we do for her nose, literally. That's it. We just want to allow the nostrils to sit in that center. I bring them in and point them inwards towards that guideline. Now, just like that nose, we're going to go ahead and start building up her lips next. Her lips are big. She does have some big old lips, okay? So underneath our nose, right on that center guide, I'm going to start with a U. Go underneath your original circle and start your U there, right underneath your circle. So it looks like she's giving us a teeny little smile, right? So funny. Now we can build up her top lip first. I'm going to start with rainbows on both the left and the right side of my U. I'm building my rainbow outwards and down, right there on the left. And I'm going to do rainbow over here on the right. Now when we do this rainbow, we're starting to see like one of those Flappy Birds, right? Like one of those birds you'd see or like draw on the side of your notebook in school. Now with that, you're going to go literally right underneath it and go right in the center with another little U. Her lips are kind of a funky shape. She's definitely giving diva, and you'll see that as we keep going. Watch on my left side. We're going to build up another rainbow over there on the left and attach another one on the right. So you got a big, thick top lip. Now I go through my lines here and really allow them to all flow together, so it's giving lots of waves, right? But her bottom lip is really what stands out on this character. She has a very big bottom lip. We want to emphasize that now. Now going from the top outer edges, I'm going to go downwards, creating a nice diagonal line on the left. And I'm going to go down and create a diagonal line on the right here. Now in the center is where you're going to meet with another big U arch. And with that U, you're just going to flow in with some U's on the outer edge, creating a big wavy rainbow again. Now I'm going to go through, clean up my lines, and lock them down nice and bold. You do the same. Now, one of the biggest inspirations that they really took for this movie, is not only all the work that they did with all their shorts, but Walt really felt like he could make this movie something, right? And he actually did. This movie got to the first Oscar. Obviously, it's the first hand animated movie. I know there's a lot of giggles, but try to hold it together, okay? Now, I swear, if you think this is silly, just wait till we get the eyes. The eyes are a killer. So now that we got those lips, though, I want to talk about those eyes as well, because y'all are so giggly. We're going to go up to our eyeballs, and we're going to start really nice and light. Be gentle with your pencil as we build up her eyes, okay? We're going to start with big parentheses. Now, I want another guideline for us. Right above your collar, right above it, put down another flat line, because you do want her eyes to reach above your collar. So that flat line is the top line of where your eyes should sit. I'll make it darker so y'all can see it, but keep yours very light. Now, right about where your outer side of your character mask is, right on the bottom line to that top, I'm stretching up a big parenthesis. I'm going to do that same parenthesis over here on my right. Now, to find where your inner corners of your eyeballs are going to be, you're going to go right above your nostrils and make a little dot for yourself. Right above and make a little dot. Now, that tiny little dot is where you're going to start by reaching up a rainbow from your parenthesis, bringing downwards a nice, straight, curved out diagonal line. Now, when you're doing this, just trust in me, y'all. We're going to have some crazy diva eyes. Just believe. You're going to bring down that arch, the same one over here on the right, to that inner corner, creating a very, very rounded and pointed inner eye. You're actually drawing the top of her eyelid. So, we need to go ahead and give her what's called a lash line. Now, ladies, if I learned anything when I was in middle school, mascara and liner makes everything better. Now, this is literally the quote for our queen here. She has some very dramatic eyes. So, on the bottom part, we're going to round out our parenthesis, bringing in a flattened line to your point right there at the bottom. Now, for her lash line, we're going to start right in the center where our point is. I'm going to show you on my left eye first. So right where your point is, I'm going to reach in through my eye, start creating a rainbow in the center for that lash line. Your lash line is very dramatic. So that top line that we did was actually her eyelid. When you bring your line outwards, you want to start flaring up where her small little eyelashes will be. Bring in your line to that point and really lock it down. Now, anything else you really want to add, if you want to give her, multiple lashes, that's up to you. But her original design actually only has one. Now, specifically for her, when the painters were going through and figuring out what tone to make everything, she actually got a lot of makeup, more than Miss Snow White, right? Snow White, we just know her for her iconic rosy cheeks and her pink little lips. So they kind of use the same tone of everything on every part of her. But specifically for Evil Queen, she had like a lot of different tones. With her eyelids was more of a blue color. She had like purpley mascara with some brown and reds. And even her lips too were very, very bold. When you're done with your lines, go through and clean them up and make them nice, big, and dark. Because even right now, she looks like she's seeing something a little bit scary, like in that wicked forest, right? Maybe she's stuck within all those scary trees. But the best way to make her look not so scary is to give her pupils. Now, since she's giving us crazy eyes, I like to go in first, give her that eyeshadow. Now, you could set yourself up for those pupils. We want to draw through all the way with a circle before you lock it in. So go nice and lightly and draw in a circle. You want it to ever so slightly sit underneath your lash line. Her eyes should be looking like she is still looking out at us, right at the audience, and not upwards. When you do this, you can go ahead and lock in nice and dark your pupil, as well as the whole thing color in very dark. You want your pupils to be one of the main darkest parts of your illustration. Now, she has some eyebrows, and these eyebrows are very, very dramatic, to say the least. Right now, we're going to go ahead and start building them out the same way we did our eyes with rainbows first. Right above my left eye, watch as I go right above, starting with a small little parenthesis, bringing that parenthesis steeply into a rainbow, and I'm going to swoop it down, creating a small U at the end of my rainbow to show the fold of her brow. Now, she's wicked, right? She's literally the evil queen. So we need these features to be sharp. Something about character design in general. When we see villains, they tend to have really sharp, really pointy lines. And this is kind of like we're reaching into our Trixie Mattel booklet and we're giving off evil queen eyebrows. So go ahead, give some nice big arched eyes here. Now, I didn't lock in my character mask yet, nor my silhouette of my face. This is why I leave it to the last. Say you needed to bring her cheeks in more or show off the bottom of her jaw a little bit more. You can go through your drawing and slowly edit it as well. Now, one thing about specifically character design is, we want the silhouette to be very clear. So you can understand, like, who's that Pokemon, right? If we were to play who's that Pokemon and kind of covered up our whole character and just left her to her silhouette, we would clearly know that this is Evil Queen. So, it's really important to go right back around where our outer cheeks are, go back on down, and really lock this part in. You can also shade in her lips because her lips are also a different tone and same as this character mask. So I go right back on in here with my pencil when I'm finished cleaning up my lines and lock that in. Now, I haven't seen the new Snow White movie. Have any of you guys? Yeah? Well, oh my gosh, I feel embarrassed. I'll be doing promotion for this movie and I don't know it. Womp womp. Well, this movie I heard some crazy things about. Did you guys like the deer and all the woodland creatures animation? Yes, oh my gosh, I've heard so many great things about it. CG live action animation is becoming more and more popular, but my heart is still fond with 2D classic films like this one itself. Recently, I see a lot of trends going into live action, and I am actually very excited for the Lilo and Stitch film.
Oh, yeah.
I think that one's going to be quite beautiful. All right, y'all, just like I'm doing right now, I'm coloring in my character mask to allow that to really start standing out nice and proud here. I'm going to go right back on down to where the bottom jaw is, make this line be very bold. And just like I shade in the outer part of her character mask, you also want to shade in the bottom part of her neck. Bring these lines nice and dark. And this way, when you shade in the bottom part of your neck, if you want, you can use the side of your pencil, since it is a bigger space, a bigger negative space, and get all this area. Pro tip, if you do use the side of your pencil, it actually allows you to have a sharp pencil at all times, because it keeps your pencil very, very sharpened. Now, to add a little bit of depth, I shade in under my neck a little bit darker and add some gradient, and I'm also going to shade in my lips. But anything else y'all want to do is going to be considered extra credit, right? Maybe Snow White is in the back, that'd be crazy. Maybe there's an apple, who knows? But the last thing every artist absolutely needs is that signature. So, somewhere nice, big, and proud. Find a place to sign your name, because you all just made Disney's first evil queen from Snow White. How'd you guys do? Did you have fun?
Woo-hoo!
Oh yeah, well, I want to see how you all made your works. So, really quickly, let's have an art show, right?